Hello everyone, back to the room. We're happy to make this work, this Leipzig-Lagos connection. We say hello to both of the researchers of Digital Benin, and Mercedes will tell us more about them. So the floor is yours, Mercedes.
Okay, well, it's very nice to have you here to speak about this fascinating project, Digital Benin. Eiloghosa Obobaifo, I don't know if the one we see on screen now, are you? She's a Nigerian anthropologist with a focus on museum studies, cultural heritage preservation, and community-centered research. She holds a bachelor degree in sociology and anthropology and a master's degree in anthropology from the University of Benin. She's currently a researcher with the Digital Benin project, which is hosted at the museum in Hamburg. And in this role, she contributes to the documentation, interpretation, and presentation of Royal Benin artifacts that were displaced during the colonial era. And her work involves extensive collaboration with museums and cultural institutions worldwide, ensuring that Nigerian voices and perspectives are central. And she actively led the digitization of all historic Benin objects in the national museums and monuments in Nigeria. And her colleague is a cultural practitioner and heritage professional with nearly a decade of experience working at the intersection of African heritage, community engagement, and cultural programming. And she holds a BA in theater art from the University of Benin. She's currently also, Iwinosa is currently a researcher with the Digital Benin project, where she contributes to iconography research, stakeholder outreach, and the development of cultural grounded digital narratives. Her work focuses on making African heritage accessible and meaningful to contemporary audiences through storytelling, digital tools, and community-centered programming. So I think I will stop here and give them the floor. Their idea is to building projects that celebrate African heritage while empowering communities to preserve and tell their own stories for future generations. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you to Leipzig University for this opportunity to present Digital Benin and all of the amazing work that we have done over time. I've been introduced, but I'll introduce myself again. My name is Iwinosa Oyakhire, and I'm the outreach coordinator and researcher for the Digital Benin project. I'm joined by my colleague, Eiloghosa Obobaifo, who was also introduced, and she will be co-presenting with me today. So without further ado, let's dive in. What is Digital Benin? For us to fully understand what Digital Benin is, we must quickly revisit the events of 1897. In 1897, the British launched a military invasion against the Kingdom of Benin. And with that invasion, the city was sacked, the royal palace was destroyed, and thousands of objects were looted and displaced. This event happened, presently it will be 128 years ago, and these objects have been displaced across 138 museums around the world. So the Digital Benin project is a direct response to the dispersal of these objects. It is a platform that brings together all of these looted objects into one central digital platform. So for the first time, rather than have these objects scattered across these institutions, they are now on one digital platform. And to build this platform, we worked with three key concepts because this is the first time a project like this is being done. So it was important for us to sort of build a framework that would help us deliver this project in a way that it would be useful. So the first thing that we did was research and recontextualization. That was like the first key concept that we worked with. And what does this mean for us? It means that we wanted to build a platform that did not just bring together the objects, they are already in the museums. We wanted to build a platform that also brings Edo-centric research and knowledge to these objects. Now, you may be wondering, what does Edo-centric knowledge and research mean? It means research and knowledge from the indigenous perspectives of the Edo people in the Benin Kingdom. And this is because a lot of museum data currently had a lot of underrepresentation for Edo-centric knowledge. So it was important to us that whatever knowledge and research we were bringing onto the platform was being brought in from Benin authored sources exclusively. I'll give us a backstory to further contextualize what I'm trying to say. The Benin Kingdom had over 50 guilds or so, which is also represented on the website currently. And these guilds were commissioned by the royal palace. Some of these guilds are organizations of craftsmen or palace functionaries. And all of the objects that were looted were produced by some of these guilds, and they still exist today and produce objects even as I speak. For further context, we have two major guilds that are very active. That is the Igun Guild of Bronze Casters and the Igbesama Guild of Ivory and Wood Carvers. And within the structure of these guilds, knowledge has been passed down from generation to generation on the context, usage, and symbols on these displaced objects, which were not reflected in the museum data. So we didn't just want to bring together the objects. We wanted to recontextualize and bring new research to those objects. The second key concept that we had in mind was connecting museum and archival data. Again, we could just bring in these objects, but it was important for us to connect documents and archival materials. This could be diary entries, invoices, auction leaflets or booklets that connected the dispersal and displacement of these objects to their histories and their stories. So it was important for us to connect that information beyond just the object. The second thing that we also realized while working on this project was that we had museum data that was both online and offline across the different museums. And so it was important for us to bring in that information into a sort of cohesiveness that allowed people to be able to access it. The third is audience and access, really. Access was at the forefront of our mind. And with that, we were thinking of an Edo-centric audience. Again, I explained what Edo-centric was before, but I'll give us a recap. It means the Edo people in Benin Kingdom. So we had an Edo-centric perspective in mind when building this platform. We wanted our audience, which is the Edo people majorly, to be able to access this website, this platform, regardless of where they were. So whether limited or slow internet access, we didn't want that to stop them. So that meant that we optimized this platform to be lightweight and easily accessible. Because access was also important to us, we incorporated different engagement and learning styles into the development of this platform. So we had visuals, audio recordings, and printable formats as part of the content that we had on the website, because we want people in Benin and Edo people across the world to be able to access this website, to be able to use it, and to be able to appreciate the new knowledge that we were bringing in. Where are we now? So putting all of this together has been quite an incredible journey. And honestly, this is just me scratching the surface. With all of the work that we've done, we've been able to identify 5,285 objects across 138 institutions in 20 countries, and it has been represented with 12,234 images on the Digital Benin platform. In addition to that, we've also been able to connect 5,081 archival documents that just show us how these objects have moved around over the last 128 years, as well across 51 institutions. And because we were intentional with Edo-centric knowledge and research, we now have 109 oral history videos from 39 contributors who are Edo people from the Benin Kingdom. And lastly, we were also able to connect 20 3D models. So this video is a 3D model of an ivory salt cellar, which would have been produced by the Igbesama Guild. And it is currently held at the National Museum of Scotland. You can play it again just so that we can really have a look. Thank you. You can see the intricate details on this object that was produced about 100 or so years ago.
Next.
Thank you, Eiloghosa. I'll just walk us briefly through the project timeline that has led up to where we are today. So this project began in 2020, and we had an initial 2-year funding. And with that 2-year period, we were able to kick this project off the ground. And this included putting the team together. There was a lot of data collection across 600 people, 150 museums, and research on the ground in Benin City, just trying to put together all of this information. Alongside, we also had our design and development team coming up with the prototypes, the linking, and the tagging. And for the first time ever in 2022, Digital Benin was released to the public, a platform that has 5,000 plus objects from 138 institutions across 20 countries. Shortly after, we also got an extension, a 1-year extension, which allowed us to bring in the archival materials and documentations. And with that, of course, came further prototyping and design and development to link the archival documents to the objects and just bring that body of work together. After this 1-year extension, this was also released to the public. We are in our 3rd funding cycle, and with that, we have a 3-year funding period, of which we are currently in the 2nd year. With this 3-year funding period, we are producing an open source tool that can be used by other professionals and cultural practitioners Benin, because we are aware that the loot of artifacts is not exclusive to the Benin Kingdom. This is also something that has happened across other parts of Africa and around the world. So with this funding cycle, we're developing an open source tool. We're being intentional with our public engagement, and we're also designing ethical guidelines to access the historical photographs that were taken within the timelines of 1897. In 2026, this will be ready and released to the general public. So at its core, Digital Benin is really a data-driven initiative. This means that we had to bring in a lot of data from institutions across 20 different countries. Just going through 138 institutions was quite a bit of a challenge, particularly because a lot of the data from these museums were in different formats. They were not in the same format. So each museum had a different way of describing their objects in their collections. They had different content management softwares, different data structures, and different data standards. And it posed a challenge because we wanted the website to be searchable and accessible. We wanted a platform where it wouldn't be difficult for you to link objects together or find the information that you were looking for. And this really posed a serious challenge for us. However, we were able to respond to this challenge by creating a translation layer for these data sets that we took from the museums. So we created these 5 translation and connection layers to make the fields on the platform searchable and accessible. After going through all of the data sets, we came to these 5: object information. All museums had object information, although they may have cataloged them differently. They fell under the category of object information. And then the object production. This is the date it was made, who produced it, how it was produced. This fell under object production. Object context, the events that led to the object being looted, the sources that it was taken from, and then provenance, which really just shows how this object has moved from place to place across time, and the institution context, exhibition history, licenses, web links, and the likes. So with this translation layer, the platform was now easy to access, easy to search, and you could compare data between institutions. What we see on our screen now is a portion of the website and what it looks like. This is an object. It's called, across museums, it's typically called a relief plaque or a plaque. However, you can see that we've been able to bring in new research to this object while maintaining the institutional data that we were able to collect. On the institutional data, you can see the translation layers applied, and then you can see the original institutional data as is across these museums. Edo-centric knowledge was brought in here. For example, you can see the Edo designation for this object is Ama, and attached to it is an icon that allows you to listen to how this word is pronounced. We also put this into categories, which Eiloghosa will be giving us more details and context on in her presentation. And we'll also show you where these objects currently is currently being held right now. Of course, we could not do all of this work without the amazing team that we have in Digital Benin. We've been able to pull this off with 5 principal investigators, 6 researchers, and 3 people in our design and development team. We also worked with 8 consultants across board in putting this project together. And we've also been generously funded by the Siemens Art Foundation and the Mellon Foundation. Currently, the Digital Benin project is hosted by the MARC in Hamburg, and we have also collaborated in the last 5 years with the Institute for Benin Studies, the Sorbonne University in Paris, the University of Benin in Benin City, and the Welt Museum in Vienna. This project is trans-regional and interdisciplinary in nature, and we've just been able to bring all of our strengths together to build this amazing platform. I'll now hand over to Eiloghosa to go into more details on some of the key features of the website. Over to you, Eiloghosa.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Iwinosa. So Iwinosa has taken us through the technical aspects of how we got to have the platform called Digital Benin, but I will be taking us through some of the key sessions or sections of the platform. On our screen now, we can see a picture of the homepage. And on the homepage, we have various entry points, which we internally call doors, because through these doors or entry points, we can access different parts of the Digital Benin website. We have the Eyo Oto space, also known as Edo designation. We have the catalog entry point. We have the institutions, provenance, maps. We have oral history, Itendo, and the archives. And what we have tried to do is, in as much as these are different entry points, but they are not standalone, because you can access other parts of the website from your current section without having to go back to the home page. And here we have screenshots of the catalog, and the catalog for us is a central tool of Digital Benin, and the catalog forms one of the 2 digital spaces of the platform where the dispersal of the Benin objects are reassembled. The objects we've heard from, we've collected data from 136 museums, over 5,000 objects. And here, these objects can be searched, filtered, studied, and viewed. And in this section of the platform, we have all the institution, all the data we collected from the various institutions here. And we also have the archival documents. And in the archival documentation, we have photographs, letters, auction catalogs, sales invoice. And these have all been connected to the objects or the data that we got from the object data we got from the various museums as well. And here we have provenance. So what we try to do on Digital Benin is only work with museums, because these were the objects we were able to find, or we were sure that we'll be able to get provenance for. So we have not included objects in private collections. So, and the objects here have links to the British punitive expedition of 1897. So here we have the maps, and the picture above shows the map of the current states, Edo South of Benin Kingdom, which is Benin City. And the picture below gives you a map of the institutions, the various institutions across the world that hold these objects. So I mentioned that you could go through any of these access points to get to the objects. So here if you are trying to navigate the platform, you could click on any of the pins here on the institution map, and you would get the objects in that institution of the particular country where you are, or where you have just clicked on. So the first 2 years of the project really was when we gathered a lot of when we did a lot of our research. We gathered oral history interviews from contributors in Benin City. And here we have historical knowledge from we have stories from we have stories, we have songs, we have proverbs and poetry in the whole oral history space. We also have Itendo. Itendo is a space that have been authored exclusively with Benin sources, or Benin authored sources, and historical narration dating back to the Ogiso era. And the Ogiso era, I would quickly say, is the era of kingship before the present day Obaship that we have now. And we had, I think, 31 Ogisos before the first Oba came into power. And we currently have our current Oba took seats in 2016. So Benin Kingdom is still very much in existence today. I know some people feel it's because of the British punitive expedition, it's in the past, but we're still here. So here we have Eyo Oto, and Eyo Oto is a space that I led on the platform. And here we have the aim of this space is to display the historical objects with their correct Edo designation, which creates object groups that differ from the current vocabulary and interpretations by institutions outside of Nigeria. So when we were collecting data, at first from the Nigerian institutions, and we had to transcribe this information that were primarily handwritten catalog cards, we discovered that there were some irregularities with how these objects were represented. Say they had wrong names, or the spelling was wrong. So this in a way misrepresented the object. So we saw the need to develop the Edo designation space, which is this Eyo Oto space. And here we have all the objects on the platform under the various Edo designations. Iwinosa briefly mentioned that here we have the object groups displayed visually and described, and we have written language and vocalization. We can hear the names of these objects, not just being able to read it, we can hear them being vocalized, and we have done this through the male and female voices. And each object have been grouped under the various Edo designations. And the illustration we have here was done by an artist from Benin, Osaze Amadasun, who we have been working with on the platform. So we have tried on Digital Benin to make sure we, I know we've been saying Edocentric perspective, but we have tried on Digital Benin to bring in local knowledge into the platform and into the data we have, because we discovered that this is something that has been missing from the institutional data that we gathered from the various museums that we contacted or that we work with. Thank you very much for giving us this time to speak about Digital Benin.
Thank you so much, Eiloghosa.